What's up, and welcome to Stay Paid. I am your host, Luke Acree. As you can tell, I'm without my co-host on this podcast because he has a much better intro than I do. But we are excited to bring you an incredible episode today because I have an amazing guest and now friend. I just met this guy, but I've had an incredible conversation with him. And I'm excited to share it with you because you guys listen to Stay Paid because we bring you the best actionable advice. But you know, to live a life of freedom tomorrow, you got to take action today. And so we're going to pick this guy's brain on everything in entrepreneurship, how to build a real estate business, how to be a successful real estate agent, but most importantly, how to succeed in life in general. So I want to welcome to the show the CEO, founder, broker owner, janitor, Mark Perkins of Pivot Realty Group. Welcome to Stay Paid.
Thank you, man. It's great to come to Philly from the Midwest because we bring a little Southern hospitality to the Northeast.
Yeah. So what are you, Kentucky?
Cincinnati, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
All that area.
Yeah.
So literally you reached out to me on Instagram, told me you were going to be in the area and you wanted to come by. How did you first learn about me? Was it through Stay Paid or Instagram? Or how did you first learn about
I didn't even know about you.
Yeah, but how did you find me on Instagram, man?
What you have done with Reminder Media in the space without even truly understanding the depth of it. I see your magazine show up on my agent's desks every once in a while.
Okay, and we probably call you to try to get office meetings. And do you ever tell us yes? Do you always hang up on us?
I actually, about 2 years ago in 2023, you did a webinar.
Okay,
and I jumped on the webinar. And those of us that are really busy, everybody listening, we're all so busy. I mean, just listen to us. We tell everybody we are. And I joined in and I took a picture and posted it and said, I'm here, guys. And that was our first interaction in 2023. Since then, we didn't meet. We didn't talk. I've just been watching from afar. And you guys have a very good understanding and marketing knowledge and brilliance and intelligence in our space. So you need to go around the people who know what the heck they're doing so a little bit can rub off on us.
No, I love it. And I just want you guys in the audience listening to know kind of how we got together, because the first time we met, we just got done with lunch. Great conversation. Maybe we'll share little details of that conversation. But he reached out to me on Instagram, and this is how it works, and this is what so few people do. Mark reached out to me, let me know he's going to be in the area, and he wanted to get together and come to my office. He didn't ask to be on the podcast or anything like that, and he just wanted to get together. And I was like, absolutely, man. I would love to get together. And it turned into a podcast episode here. But the big tip I want to give people, or golden nugget, as I used to say, is that you don't receive if you don't ask. And most people are way too, I don't want to call it, I don't know if it's scared, lazy, don't think it's worth it. They just don't even do the ask, because even before me, you were meeting with even someone even better than me, which is like the right-hand guy to Gary Vee. And you guys told me you got that by cold outreach, right?
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
So walk me through, like, why are you able to do the cold outreach? Why is that how you've always kind of built relationships and done it? Or how does that work for you? And why can you overcome that fear?
It's the only thing I'm great at in life. And you hear the story about knocking on doors and going face to face. And the only way I know how to get what you want is to ask. But I will acknowledge what you said. The reason why when we don't, because it's not just everyone else listening, the reason why we don't ask is we're having an issue with our self-confidence, our self-esteem. And I'm worried about, what if the guy says no? And what I'll even tell you is, whatever level of accomplishment and success I found and people in my world would lay that on me, I still knew that was in my mind even when I sent you the video. I pull up the video and I send it on Instagram, and I know the feeling that every human has is like, well, what if they ignore it? What I'm saying is, I don't think there's a way to eliminate those thoughts sometimes.
I agree.
No matter the level of success that you have. And so what you have to do is you just have to do the work. And last night I was sitting talking to someone, and towards the end of it, I said I was going to have good language on this, so I'm going to. But it pretty much was just do the work. And so I don't think that we have an issue with understanding the work that needs to be done. I do believe that we're so scared because we're worried about the judgment of everyone else.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And you have an interesting story because you've built up Pivot Realty Group to a few hundred agents. Couple hundred agents. And you did it not recruiting anybody who was in real estate already. Can you tell a little bit about your journey of building up this brand? And it's also independent. So maybe next question, I'm going to pick your brain on why you've chosen to do independent and not join one of the bigger brokerages. But how did you build Pivot?
All right. So how did I build Pivot is different than why.
Okay.
So how I built it was It's the name of it. There's nothing about, most people name these companies after themselves. And even teams inside of my company, they name it after themselves. And I just know the first 2 years I was in the business, I worked for a company that there was nothing terrible about them. They were the biggest in Cincinnati, but it was named after two guys. And I'm going to be honest with you, I wasn't doing it for those two guys. And so there was something about me, my opinion was like, why would I name it after me? Anytime, it was fine. When I started the brokerage and it was just me, that's okay. It was about me then. But I knew I was going to hire people. And so the moment that you hire someone else, that my belief was it has to be about them more than me. I know it doesn't seem like that makes any sense, but that's what I found out to be true, right? And so I started it originally. The reason why I started the company, I love our industry. Do I need to say that first? I really do. But I think that our industry has a lot of flaws, and it's had a lot of flaws for a long time that people haven't been bold enough and been willing to address.
What are some of those flaws?
That it's all about making money, and it's all about here's what I felt. I was at a company of 1,200 agents. Nothing wrong with it. Sure. Kudos to somebody if they can have 1,200 agents and culture. This company, it was just about the transaction and about the revenue and about the money. Okay. And what I realized after 2 years, when you feel like you're a number in anything, you don't want to be a part of it anymore. And so not only was I a number, my clients were numbers. And every time I wanted to do stuff a little bit different, not to buck the system, but a little bit different, it was like, well, does that fall within the policy? Well, is that the way we do things? Well, why do you do those things? And so what I realized consistently all the time, every time I wanted to do something different that felt like it should be right for the client, every time I wanted to tweak it and do a little bit maybe of a different business card, something different. Remember, this is pre-teams. It started to feel like they could care less about everyone but themselves and their pocketbook. I don't know if that's the truth, but as an agent who out of 1,200 agents within 18 months was number 7, if that person feels that way, something is wrong with the culture. And I wouldn't say you pay attention to just one person's opinion, but there were multiple people that were around me.
Well, how do you battle that? Because it's so tricky. Yeah. Because if you don't focus on the number, then you end up running a non-profitable business with unsuccessful agents. If you don't at least make it about the targets and the goals. But at the same time, in order to hit targets and goals, you got to care about people. So how do you walk that balance, that push and pull that happens?
You know how in life, everybody's searching for the balance. And me and you would probably have, even though I really like you, man, I got to meet you. It was good, the conversation. I think you're a quality human. Based upon my opinion, Luke's a quality human.
I got him fooled, ladies and gentlemen. I got him fooled.
He's doing a good job. But you know how a lot of times people are looking for this balance? You hear balance a lot.
Yeah.
And then you also go to the gurus of this world who we look up to and we put them on pedestals. And so many of them say, balance? What are you talking about, balance? There's no balance at the elite level of success. So what I'm going to say is we'd have a great conversation about that, right? So I'm someone that I do believe it's not about balance, it's about integration.
Okay.
I think you have to integrate all parts of your life, because if you're going to be an entrepreneur, there's no switch to flip off at 5 o'clock. There's just not. And so what I found was, is that they just didn't, this idea of balancing with numbers. I've found that whatever business, whatever entity I want to operate, whatever I want to grow, my business, build a company, I have to provide value to the customer. When you're running a brokerage, unfortunately, the customer is the agent for the most part. I'm trying to run a very high-level elite organization that agents would prefer to do business there because they feel they benefit more being there versus someone else.
Agree. Yeah, right? You're the product. Your brokerage is the product for the agent.
100%. And so what I found was, how do we do that, right, while caring about a bunch of different things? I was fortunate that we weren't a Wall Street company. We're Main Street all day, man.
Okay.
And what Main Street says is that I didn't go borrow against the farm to build the company. I didn't go raise a lot of debt and take out loans.
But are you saying that because you're basically saying the negative of the Wall Street side is the pressure of return?
You have to.
Yeah.
You
But does that mean that Pivot Realty Group is not about a profitable return? I'm basically.
Here's what I'm doing. I'm playing such a long game in this thing, man.
Okay.
And since I'm playing such a long game, I'm not worried about the monthly, quarter, or even yearly profit.
Okay.
Because what I've done for 21 years, if you don't put yourself in a spot where you have debt up to your eyeballs, either personally or for the business, you can make long-term strategic financial investments that aren't going to have short-term returns. And so if you think of an ROI, I don't have an ROI in my business that benefits Mark Perkins' pocketbook in 2026. I have one that maybe over the next decade will, right? And so because of that, I'm always looking for ways to invest to improve our company, because if we're going against these huge conglomerates, these Wall Street conglomerates, they have a lot of money.
Sure.
They can buy the cool, sexy things
Sure.
that look like, hey, I have this great platform. We have all the marketing in the world. We have the most intelligence and brilliance. So if I'm going to do that, I better be looking for ways for me to innovate every day. And unfortunately, innovation costs a lot of money. And so I wasn't solving for, let me make a $10 million return on my effort within 3 years. I wasn't solving for that. I tried to say, as an agent, what is going to benefit an agent that makes them want to be here, that's going to help change their life, that's going to increase their ROI, that's going to increase their investment, and have them get a referral system that's built that if they're putting 60 hours a week in for the first 3 years, it eventually can be 25 hours a week, where they can double and triple their income and live the life that we're talking about. So it couldn't be about solving for a financial metric short term, because anybody that starts a brokerage right now that thinks that they're going to make millions of dollars just because they have some great idea, it's not going to happen. It's a really hard business now.
It's extremely and very thin margins, because what the brokerage used to be able to provide, not that an agent can get everything, but they can almost get everything on their own, because of how the innovation of technology has taken place. Well, I still want to almost go a little deeper on the thought of like, how do you, because the struggle is, I think of Acre Brothers Realty. So we made the naming mistake. So hopefully it won't come back to kill us.
No, that's what we should all have is debate.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying. Steven and I have talked about this before. It's like Acre Brothers being in the name, and now that we're building the team, it doesn't. But then you have the Keller Williams, right? That was Gary Keller, and then what's his name, Williams, that came together. So I think it can work. But regardless, I'm curious how you present the value prop to the agents, because everything you just said, I know what you're saying, and I think the audience does too, and they agree with it. But it does feel like every brokerage says that.
Yeah.
How are you finding that you're being able to, what's working for you in trying to showcase that or deliver it? Like, what mechanisms are you using? Is it one-on-one coaching sessions with the agents because there's only 200? Yes. Is it showing them at the all staffs that you have, here's what we invested in? Like, how are you displaying that heart to the agents through your actions?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think we're displaying it enough, because even though this doesn't come from the side that most people want to say it, we have a service mindset inside this business.
Yeah.
And what I hope is when we get to 1,000 agents, because we will, I hope that we still have this service mindset, that we don't get so diluted in the management of the business.
Yeah.
But this service mindset, there's nothing that's not on the table to help change somebody's life.
So it's really a people-centric business for you. Like, how often do you meet with your agents?
Me and the core leadership I have in the company, who every one of them I hired, brought them into the business, trained in the Pivot way, helped them become six-figure earners. Those people that came up through the company are now leaders in the company. So me and those leaders, right? These weren't recruited from some other company.
No, you built them.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. It's not just me, but the system and the culture built them, right? And so me and those people, we are interacting with double-digit agents daily.
Yeah. That's what I sense from you, because, obviously, like, there's so many golden nuggets that you just shared that I want, people to catch. But one is like, what your activities are dictated by the game that you're playing. And Simon Sinek wrote a great book on this called The Infinite Game. And the whole concept was that, look, when you're playing football, right, there's 4 quarters, it's 60 minutes, and there's an end, and there's a scoreboard, and there's certain rules to that game, and you're going to play that game a certain way during that 60 minutes. But if it was an infinite football game, you're going to play that differently because it has different rules. And so you're essentially looking at your business in that way, going, hey, what is the game I'm playing? I'm not playing the Wall Street game. And that's critical. And this comes down to, we had a great interview with Garrett Maroon, who's a friend of mine. And he talked about knowing the game you're playing in terms of your definition of success, because success can be defined differently for different people. And that will dictate your actions. So you're playing a different game because you care more about building up the business versus like recruiting it in. So building these people from scratch. And you care more about the people than you care about your profits, because that is what success looks like for you. It seems like, I'm just reading between the lines, you correct me if I'm wrong, seems like you are doing a lot of one-on-one coaching, and that you almost would consider yourself the chief coach at Pivot Realty
I used to be,
Group.
but I have a guy, a right-hand guy, that does that more than me now.
Okay.
Because if you're going to scale a business and we're going to be that plugged in culturally, you have to develop more talent that continue to provide that level of value.
Okay.
The struggle is to find people who care as much, not just about humans, but the culture that believe in it as much.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to scale this to, it was tough to get to 200. We're going to scale to 500. We're going to scale to 1,000. We have to develop another 4, 5, or 6, or 7 of those people. But yeah, to your point about what you were saying about the infinite game, listen, I have no problem on challenging. Most brokerages are scared to challenge the number 1 or 2 agent. What are you talking about? No, I'm not. I'm going to challenge everybody to become the best form of themselves every day. Yep. I know that goes back to whether that's best to, but I do. And I looked at, we had a sales meeting. There was 40 or 50 people that showed up, maybe 60, before we came to NYC and then here to Philly this week. And in there, I said, hey, you all, I'm willing to be the contrarian when it comes to teams in this world. I think too many people think that they're team leaders. I'm all about if you're capable of being a team leader. But what's that mean? It means that you shouldn't start a team that other people join you to serve you. That's not why they're joining your team. Other agents, they only join your team when they're struggling, or someone else that thinks that they can improve by being around you. No one is going to join your team to say, let me help Mark make more money. Let me help the Curry brothers, let me help them make more money and build a bigger brand. They think you're going to help them.
Agree.
So if that's what they want, your goal has to be, I have to care more about them and their outcome than mine. And what I'm telling you is that's our brokerage model. So imagine who you have to be as a team leader inside Pivot. Imagine what you have to bring to the table, because if that's what we're doing from a brokerage standpoint, you better be an elite level team, because other than that, our agents don't need you as a team leader. We're the best team leader in the business. And unfortunately, build a team. I don't care even what that means these days, right? I don't go make a lot of money, change your life, brand yourself. But brokerages used to be the team. When this industry was built up, the brokerage fulfilled that responsibility. And because this has gone Wall Street and it's about making quarterly profits, the brokerages have given up on their responsibility to care and develop.
But do you
people.
think it's gone Wall Street, or do you think what's happened is technology has evolved? Or here's my take, is that the brokerage was kind of, in essence, the mega team, because the brokerage would put the funds forward to get the software and to deal with the liability and all that stuff. And what's happened over time is that technology pricing has come down. Now you can go buy FUB, you can go buy KV Core, right? Which it used to be the brokerage was the one that's going to provide that to you. In essence,
I'm sorry, we still do.
And all right, and all that
don't
stuff.
Charge our agents. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, most brokerages don't. Most brokerages don't charge.
We don't have a tech fee. I'm sorry.
But essentially, what's happened is, right, and I see this with like Steven, right, at under the Keller Williams brand, is that the team, the talented person, the Steven of the world, right, or whoever, yourself, they realize, oh, I can. Why am I paying the splits I'm paying, or why am I doing? Why don't I go and actually build my own mini, brokerage in essence?
So we have to ask a question. What is a brokerage?
That is the question.
See, I don't see a brokerage is there just to provide just the tech. I don't think the brokerage is there just to hang the sign on the building. I don't think the brokerage is there just to defend us from legal. I think the brokerage is supposed to develop people. I think the brokerage is supposed to be the team leader that cares about taking the agent from $120,000.
But how do you practically do that to be, devil's advocate? Yeah. It's like, that sounds great. Yeah. But how do you do it? Because you've done it well. To your credit, man, you got 200 people. That is freaking ridiculously hard to do. Yeah. And it's hard to do when you're not like picking what other, like you're not recruiting agents. You're building them from non-licensed people.
Yeah, we have 3 people.
That's crazy. So I just go, but how do you actually do that? Because it sounds great.
What do you want? Let me ask you this. If you want to be an employee again from being an entrepreneur, what would you want from your leaders inside the company?
I would want advice. I would want them to show me how to do something. So if I need help on a listing presentation, let's say, I would want them to show me the listing presentation, because I can R&D, rip off and duplicate, right? Success leaves clues. I would want them to try to tell me the potholes that I haven't seen yet. because they've seen them and they've walked them and they've already walked the steps that I want to do. That's what I was be hoping for, things like that.
Then that's what people should solve for when they're creating brokerages and creating teams. Nothing we just said was about a brand of a company. Nothing that we just said was about helping that person market themselves.
Well, that's not because I don't think I would not want a brand. It's just that we all know that the brand really isn't making the difference for the consumer on Main Street to choose.
Or the agent, unless there's individuals.
But is that done? Have you only found the way to do that really one-on-one? Because do you fear that you're going to struggle to do that when you get to 500, 1,000 agents?
So first, I don't fear anything, but I do realize there are struggles, right? And so what we are figuring out right now is how we scale this. That's the honesty of it. How do we scale? But what I see consistently, we know there's these things in the world called the 80-20 rule. Let's act like we aren't talking about real estate. You go into any sales organization that's selling anything in this world. For some reason, this dynamic evolves. 20% of the people sell 80%.
We see that in Reminder Media. We see it. Maybe it's not quite 20%. Maybe it's 30%, but it's very close. Yeah.
Right. You see that, right?
Yeah.
So there are these things that happen where for some reason, it's not that the 80% of humans aren't quality humans. That's not the case. There's just something about the 20% or 10% or 20. They have discipline, that they're willing to force themselves to do things that the other people won't do. They probably aren't even the smartest. They probably aren't.
So true.
They probably even aren't the most educated, right? But there's something inside of them. It might be their past, their experience, their DNA, their mindset, something about that. But what I found out is in real estate, there's a middle 60%. There's really not too much I can do for the bottom 20, man. They just literally won't work. They won't take action. There's something about
that's none of our listeners, Mark. That's none of our listeners here.
No, it's some of my agents. No, it is.
I'm sure it's some of our listeners, but
it is.
You know who you are. If you're listening
but the middle 60% actually looks like the bottom 20, but they're not. They just haven't found great leaders that pour into them in this industry. They used to. Now, unfortunately, it is being solved for just the rainmaker. Listen, I'm not hating on the team leader or how that evolves.
I see. Okay, so I'm starting to understand your thesis a little bit more. It's like most people will either focus on the rainmaker or the bottom, and they really not even avoid, but they're not focused on the one they actually should be focused on, which is the person who's doing 2 deals a year or 3 deals a year. It's like they can do it, but they're not really having
an impact.
Yeah,
we have no impact for the most part on the top 20 and the bottom 20. We could get the top 20 could go anywhere.
Yeah.
They could go to any real estate brokerage and they would find success. The bottom 20, no one can do anything to help them.
Okay. So then I'm still trying to get out because I think this is for my own selfish gain. So everybody listening to this is like, have you found practically how you've done that is through personal relationship with the agent and personal one-on-one coaching, or have you found other avenues to do that? Has that been the solution?
It's not just personal one-on-one, but there's something about whether it be a pod, a small group, accountability partners.
Yep.
The culture of the company truly has to be about, I'm not going to go try to hire numbers and throw a number against a wall and something's going to stick. Unfortunately, that's our industry and a lot of others.
Yeah, agree.
Right? 78% not failure rate in this business, 78% quitting rate in this business with 18 months. I don't know if anybody knows that. People who obtain a real estate license nationally, and NAR puts out these numbers all the time, somewhere in the 70 percentile of the people that get a license in 2025, of all 100% of the people, which will be a few hundred, 78% of those individuals will quit the business and give up.
Crazy.
And it's not because they couldn't do it. It's just because they didn't know what they were getting into, because someone didn't take the time to sit them down on the front end and say, let me help you understand what this business is. But if you start the relationship that way and you let them know what they're coming into, what it's going to look like, what the expectations of the business, you create the relationship there. This isn't about recruiting and throwing numbers, but the challenge is, how do you scale impact? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
100%.
And so I do think in this world of apps and AI and through avatars, I think that there will be some system that we're working on, and so many others are in some way. There will be some way to interact with the middle 60 agents that truly want it, that at their quiet time at 9 p.m., because what will happen is everybody starts out, I believe, at the beginning of almost every day, we start out with goals and what we think we're going to do. I think all of us do. And then the vast majority of humans, for some reason, they let the rest of the day and all the distractions take over, and they don't maintain discipline on only the actionable items that matter.
So true.
We just need an app, because one-on-one, I'll change the 60% of the agents' lives. If they have access to me every day for an hour or two, I will change their life. It's not that they aren't capable. They just haven't built the hardcore discipline mindset yet.
Agree.
And so if we can, I'll say when, if we can build an app-based system where they're interacting with our brokerage, with our culture, with the actionable items that need to happen on a daily basis, almost like an adventure book that we were playing when we were a kid. We read when we were a kid. You can take this path, you can take this path. They need someone to usher them throughout the day. Because if you can just make 10 calls or 10 interactions, if you can do a little bit of business development every day, you're probably in 12 months going to be a 20 or 30 transaction agent. And in the marketplace that we work, that's $120,000.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like the more and more I try to build business and the more and more I coach agents and talk to agents, it's like even before I get to marketing strategies and activity of like, here's what the strategy you should focus on and where to get leads and stuff like that, it really comes down to calendar management. It's like how you run your day, like you're saying, is the most important thing. And most people are not intentional of how they run their day. And I have found with like agents that the biggest pain point they have is they don't have a calendar that they set, because that stems from they don't know what they should be set on. That's where they need a great broker, a great mentor, a great leader.
I'm not saying that the team environment can't work, but unfortunately, that team environment usually is focused on more units, making more money. They're not saying, let me develop people.
Yeah.
That's what brokers are supposed to be. And they've actually given up on that because
it's interesting. It's an interesting point. I mean, yeah, I've seen it. I mean, we know of we're with them, but we know like when they said they were a tech company and not an education company, I think that was one of the biggest mistakes they made.
Man,
a brand.
We're a people business and a people company. That's not because I want to be, because I know what humans want.
Yeah.
I know what consumers want. We know what agents want.
Well, do you still, I'm sure you do, but you still have top producers leave you?
Listen, I think, so here's this.
Be honest, Mark. Be honest.
No, I'm trying to be honest and transparent. Yeah. We did more in the past as we were trying to overcome the 100 agent mark and the 200 agent mark. I think every time you get to a place as an individual, you usually learn through the mistakes and you learn through the losses.
Yeah. What did you find that you were failing at as these people leave you? What have you found? I know what we found when John left us and Lolly left Acre Brothers. I mean, I know what we realized, but
the company was too much about me.
Interesting.
And all of a sudden, when they didn't get as much access to me, that became a problem. Okay. They weren't even open-minded. Was the next person they were going to get access to, were they as capable? They just felt like they lost something. And we did have a moment that was happening. So what I had to do was I had to build it into a professional company where the bigger idea of the culture was they matter. So I know that the companies get lost. A brokerage will get lost in that. And then it becomes about the tech. Then it becomes about the operation. No, it is still about the people, but I had to have more people inside. So it had to become about Pivot and about what we're standing for as a company and how we care versus how Mark cares.
Interesting how you're wording it. And I love the way you're describing it, because when we grew, I think it was in our 5th year as a team, they hit 320 transactions, and then we lost 2 top producers and 1 mediocre producer. And the next year we did like 220 transactions, right? And we went through that same thing that a lot of people, we built these people up, John had closed, I think 80 deals that year. And most of them were, obviously leads we had produced and all this stuff. But what we realized is what we lacked, and we described it as like standards of excellence. And you're describing it as like who Pivot Realty Group is. Yeah. To be on this team, this is who you need to be. Yeah. And what we found is that we had high standards, but held very poor and loosely. So it's like we had who we wanted to be, and we had the standards of it. To be on the team, you have to do this, and this is who we are. But we didn't hold to them. And it's so funny because history repeated itself. I ran that mistake with Reminder Media and didn't even see it. And we ran it in Acre Brothers too. And we're the best we've ever been right now. Knock on wood. Stephen and them are doing an incredible job. But it is because it is so hardcore clear of, if you're going to be on this team, this is what we stand for. This is how we are. This is what you need to do to perform to be on this team. And I think like accountability is kindness. Like clarity is kindness. Accountability is kindness because it gives you stability to know how to succeed or not. And it gives you ability to know, am I on the right team? But when the leader is kind of wishy-washy of not holding to what they believe in, it gives the person kind of a wishy-washy stability, because they're like, half the time I feel good here, the other half the time I feel bad here. Why is that? And it's because, oh, no. This is who this team is. And not every team is for every person, just like not every brokerage is for every person. But when you have clear standard of accountability, clear standard of who we are, then all of a sudden you get your vibe attracts your tribe.
100%. I think but every company has had these growing pains.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody and other mentors that I've had or people that I have mutual respect for. They all have had this problem. And it didn't happen on purpose. It happens because you wake up one day and you're like, how do we become this? It's like, I still care as much. What's going on? But a fascinating thing, like if we take this and not make it about my company, there's so many successful people at every brokerage. That's what's so funny. And one of the reasons why we don't recruit traditionally, like I like this because everybody's going to attack me and I love it. Like bring the heat. Right. But here's what's crazy. Here's why I actually fundamentally don't believe in recruiting. And, I have private backroom conversations with the people who are recruiting.
Yeah.
And those people talk differently there than they do when they're recruiting. Right. I'm not ever going to say anybody's name. I wouldn't break that trust. But here's what's really funny is that why won't brokers come out and say there's really successful people at every place? You don't have to come work with me to win and be
probably
successful.
Because their value prop is not truly strong enough to withstand that.
I don't believe the number one agent should leave where they are. The interruption in marketing, the interruption in business, the questions they're going to have to ask to consumers like that. And I love when people would push back. I'm like, how is this serving your client? Other than the BS posts that you make out on social media about like, I finally found my tribe, or I've been waiting for this company to provide an elite level
of service. But isn't it a money thing? Isn't it like, doesn't it all boil down to like, why does somebody switch a brokerage? It's ultimately they weren't making the money they want to make.
Well, but that's on them. And so what I heard somebody say years ago, which was awesome, they actually said, hey, you know what? Everybody that we're in the real estate space, and 25% of agents change brokerages every year.
It's insane.
Like this, and every 4 years, how we're like every 7 years, someone buys a new home.
Yeah.
NAR, it's not an exact stat, but I actually put it into ChatGPT or put it.
Yep.
How many realtors change brokerages every year? And it said, well, we don't have an exact number, but the average time that an agent stays at a brokerage is 4 years. If this is about careers, that's insane to me. If you change jobs every 4 years over your entire working life, that person is probably not going to have the level of success to where someone was at one or two places who went all in. I'll have a debate on it, but you see the top agent in our marketplace in Cincinnati, she's at the brokerage she started at. She's not chasing threshold. She's not chasing an extra $15,000 in my pocket. She's not chasing downline. And you know what? She's making more money than 98% of the people at all those companies that's trying to make it about the downline. So what do you want to be? Like, do you care about being in this industry to being a high-level professional to serve the consumers and serve the public? Or are you in this to get rich? If you're in to get rich, go find something else. Right? You can get rich and become really, really wealthy. The way this industry used to be is become a high-level professional that's extremely capable, and you go out in the marketplace and you represent consumers at an elite level. How about you try that? But what somebody said was, you know what? All these people, when they change companies, one day, if I read out of the real estate business, I'm going to have more credibility because it's like I'm not selling to my thing. But they say, you know what nobody is honest with themselves about? They have to take themselves with them.
That is true.
Do
you like the person that you are?
Listen, because the reality is a brokerage and a manager that I see out here in the world and these owners and Wall Street with these huge companies, they're not going to change your individual life. And if you think just that platform or we all have access to it. My company offers KV Core that became Bold Trail for free, full platinum access. You could utilize that system and go all in. 17% adoption rate inside my brokerage.
Crazy.
At the level, you know what we spend for
and you're giving it for free. Yeah.
Spend a lot of money on that.
But okay, let me be devil's advocate here. And I'm not
you to be.
Yeah, I'm not picking on you. I'm just making sure, like,
please
for the
do.
people listening in us is going, you have a people-centric culture, not numbers-driven. You're giving for free this platform, but yet only 17% of the agents
full
use
adoption.
it.
They'll use pieces of it.
Yeah, pieces
a lot of
of
people
it.
use pieces of it.
Yep.
Full adoption.
But do you think that's why what happens to people is that they become number-centric because they realize if I don't, it doesn't like I won't win on either end. If I go this route, which is so people centric and so like culture centric, and what some would describe as just like feel. If I go that route, I'm not going to make any money, and I'm going to end up with the same results. This route, I actually have a chance to make money and impact.
Do you think I don't make any money?
No, I think you do, but I'm just calling out the obvious. You get what I'm saying? It's like, I don't want to use well, it doesn't really matter, but let's just say it's like an EXP or Keller Williams Century 21. What you're people centric, you only got 17% adoption. They're not people centric, even though I'm just making this as an analogy.
Yeah.
They only get 17% adoption. So is it really like a difference maker to try to be that people centric, or is it really in the like it's you almost don't have an effect almost at all unless it's the one-on-one.
All right. So to be a difference maker, what am I trying to solve for to make a difference? That's the question. My pocketbook or people's lives? Because I know you can come inside my brokerage and you will find people that are like, it changed my life. Not me. The thing changed my life. How many brokers have had someone look at them and say, hey man, in October of a year, and someone made 6 figures. That might not be a lot in New York City, but in the Midwest, where an average price point
Cincinnati
is 250, is 300, is 325, and someone you're walking by a desk in October, and there's a smile, and if you're plugged into your people, you're like, hey man, how you doing? And you have a conversation about their production, and they're like, really good. You're like, hey, I just hit $100,000 of personal income, and I'm like, that's really good. Is that a goal of yours? They're like, not just a goal. I'm the first person in my family that's ever done that.
You know what I love about you, man? And I can see this through the theme at lunch too. And I want people to catch this is like, you are very missional minded, and why minded. And the, result of that might be income. You obviously make great money and stuff like that, but you're very missional minded, which gives you the energy and passion to keep going and doing what you're doing. And I would argue for most people, I see this in myself included, is the people who actually are very successful, they make a mission out of what they're doing that is bigger than the monetary. I would even say some of the brokerages out there that you might even consider Wall Street, if you really look at their founders are very missional minded.
I give them props and credit for that.
They're very missional minded.
But what's happened though? It's become about the money. And I'm not, listen, it's just the thing. I think you could say this about a huge home improvement store versus if some mom and pop hardware store survived.
Yep.
The reason why they couldn't survive is because they can't buy the product at the level that the big ones can, and they can't leverage price.
Yeah, it's the margin, yeah.
But so the only thing they can outpace is relationships. That's the only way. They could find some niche of something that they're providing that you like going there because seeing the people every day, that they help you with a different level of service. Any question you have from a home improvement, you might be willing to spend a little bit more money, or they can edge someone in location and geography, right? There's ways, but what I'm going to say, that's hard. You're going to have to be a mission-driven person to win in that environment.
And that comes back to it's how you define success, because depending on how you define success will ultimately drive your willingness to do that. I have some rapid fire questions for you just to pick your brain here. I would love to know. Yes, you can. Yeah, you don't need any Red Bull, man, the amount of energy you have. So, first is, so agents, right, or majority are getting out of the business, right? Most don't make it. What's the number one reason why you think they fail?
Because nobody has been honest with them when they first got in the business.
And that honesty is about what?
About what this business is. And this business is about business development, prospecting, marketing, and branding.
Yeah.
They're watching this stuff on TV and thinking it's about showing homes and making $10,000 and $15,000 and $20,000 commissions. In real estate, unfortunately, we have 2 jobs. We have 2 careers. Nobody tells them what the real career is. The real career is you got to go get the business.
Yeah, you got to be a prospector,
right?
Marketer.
No one tells them that. And unfortunately, the vast majority of humans haven't had the level of experience to know how to do it. And then what's happened to the model of real estate? No one's there to truly train them, coach them, and care.
All right, number 2 question for you, right?
Is you wiggled in your chairs. It's going to be a really hard one.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Knowing what you know now about building Pivot.
No.
What would be the thing you would do differently about what you have built?
All right. So that's a multifaceted question. I don't want the answer to this to be that I'm not passionate and totally love what we're doing, the brand and lives we're changing. But to win in an environment that is the margins are so slim and your people are recruited every day from a multitude of areas, it's hard to not just succeed and win and exist. It's tough to thrive. And so the question was, what would I do different?
Yeah. Looking back, you've built it to 200 plus.
I'm going to be honest.
Yep.
I wouldn't do it again.
Why do you say that?
Because what the world keeps on telling me is it's about financial metrics and about my own net worth, the capabilities and the commitment, the discipline that I have as an individual. I would have been number one as a realtor in my marketplace, in my space, making a few $1 million a year. And what I know how to take that money and build financial security and financial wealth, I would have probably been worth 3 times what I am now. And I wouldn't have had to give up the segment of my life that I've had to give up to build this thing that true entrepreneurs know. However, since I made the decision, I did make that sacrifice. The path that we're on now, eventually the long-term outcome, if we're talking about solving for net worth, it probably will be exponential beyond being the individual agent. But what I will share is what everybody keeps telling me in this world is about this balance. All right. They want to have a family. They want to spend time with their kids. They want to enjoy the experiences of life. You can't do that at the level that society's talking about and being an all-in entrepreneur changing other people's lives. And so if in the beginning you could truly know and be honest about it, I probably would take more of my life back.
Yeah, it reminds me of NVIDIA's founder, what's his name, Jensen or whatever. He said a similar thing. It's like, I forget how they worded the question to him, but they were like, what would you do differently? And he said a similar thing, which was like, I don't think I would do it again, knowing the pain that I had to go through. Yeah. Because it is true. It's like there is not balance. There's harmony. Usually. Yeah. And there's seasons, I guess is the best way to describe it. There's seasons in life that you go through. And when you're trying to build something, like I find myself in the season right now, when you're trying to build something, like I had my VP of sales for partnerships go to a competitor. I was telling you that story. I had my CTO person resign on me. And at the same time, we were rearranging all of our sales. We're, cutting some things. So I'm like interim CTO, VP of sales for partnerships. At one point I was doing a write-up on a tech thing. The next second I was calling a corporate relationship, and it's just like so overwhelming. And so I'm in a season that is more overwhelming right now. And then there'll be a season of peace.
You know what happens about those seasons though? It's the level of human that you become more capable of when you go through the tough seasons. So the next time that season comes around, you already know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so what's great about it, what's funny is, we watch all these TV shows and all the superstars of real estate are driven around in the Range Rovers and these extended Escalades and all that. I found myself driving from New York City today, me driving the Expedition, and my team gets to ride in the back. And I look over and they're sleeping.
You're like, this is a good picture of success right here.
I almost took the picture, but I didn't want to interrupt their sleep, right? And so, but I think what you realize is what you're doing, man, when you go through the seasons, because, the elite people, the Tony Robbins, the Jim Rohns, a lot of people talk about the seasons of life, and they're true. But there's not one season that I go through where I'm not learning something or thriving or harvesting or reaping. But what's happened in this 21-year journey and what's happened in yours, there's a lot of people that you've really helped improve and get better, man.
Yep.
And as painful as it is as a leader sometimes, this is no excuses, but the reality is if you can look around and people on your left and your right and with you. I just asked the guy who worked at your company, who's worked for 3.5 years as the chef, and I said, why here, man? Because we're all free agents. And he went, I love being here. And I said, why? You creating an environment and being responsible every day that those people get to come to find a home professionally to feel that way.
Yeah. And think about what he said too. Did he say money?
No, he said about his family.
He said I get to spend time with my family. I get to have the weekends. But here's the point. I think this should be the quote of your life, Mark. And obviously I'm just getting to know you, but I see the passion in you. It's like, if you want a life of significance, it comes to a life of service. And it's like a life of significance is really not about the money you make or the accolades you receive. Those things are great things and they can make you feel good for a moment, but you're impacting people's lives. And that's what really has enabled you to build Pivot. And I actually go, your secret sauce as I see it is, man, you took people who weren't real estate agents and you helped them build from the ground up. You served them all the way. And that picture of you driving your team asleep And the expedition today from New York City to here is the picture of your life. But that is what success looks like.
I don't receive a lot of inspiration or passion from taking somebody that's already making $400,000 a year and helping them make 500. I'm just being honest. Like, we have the platform that they can do that, but that's just, they get to utilize the thing we've built.
Yeah.
What really fires me up, man, is to take somebody from maybe similar ways that we grew up.
Yep.
And somebody that just hasn't either they haven't found the opportunity or they haven't known to lean into it.
Yeah.
And to take that person that maybe if they otherwise wouldn't have met a couple guys like us or the other great leaders out there, there's some awesome people listening, right? That if we wouldn't have leaned in and built the thing and gone to bat every day for them, they may not have the chance to change their life the way that they do. Yeah. And when I look around and I'm like, it's worth it, right? It's worth it. Even though I wouldn't go back and I'd go back and tell the guy, like, make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. How can people connect with you, man?
Just go to pivotrealty.com. We actually bought my website domain recently, markperkins.com, and I spent money to buy it. I'd never bought a domain, and we don't have anything on it, so don't go there. But you can find us on social media. We have a podcast.
Okay,
it's called The Necessary Entrepreneur. See, it's not real estate, but I feel this responsibility that find out what you want in your life, and then identify the necessary tactics you have to employ and go do it. So it was necessary for me to live the life I wanted to live. It was necessary that I become an entrepreneur, not real estate, and I throw this out about this passion thing. I know we're wrapping it up, but a guy like Richard Branson, I don't fanboy like anybody. It's something weird about me, but I respect what they've done. You know, that guy had dyslexia, and he built Virgin Records in England. I think he was like 18 years old, and he built that company. You know, a lot of people are like, find your passion. You'll never work a day in your life. Virgin isn't Virgin Records. It's Virgin Records. It's Virgin Atlantic, the airline. It's Virgin Galactic, going to space. He has his island that people pay to go to. He has his passion is about finding something that could be improved and you could do better and go all in. He looks for experiences. So this idea about real estate, this wasn't about the necessary entrepreneur, isn't about real estate, but it was necessary that I took full responsibility in my life and controlled the outcome to the level that we have the ability and capability and take action every day. And if you do that, I think you'll wake up in 5 or 10 years and you'll be really happy that old you did the hard work so that you can currently be living this life with the capability we have. Yep.
Well said, man. Well said. Guys, go check out Mark. You guys know, as you're listening to Stay Paid, the thing we ask you to do is to share it with a friend. That's our one request for you, just being listeners. It helps us spread the show. You can find everything on Spotify. You can find it at staypaidpodcast.com. You can find it on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast. And here's my action item for you from this podcast, right? So we talked about a bunch of different stuff you learned from Mark's journey. You could hear the passion behind him in trying to make this industry and this life more than just about a number. And I would ask you right now to think this week, it would be a great exercise to sit down and go, hey, you know, who am I treating in my life just as a number? And why am I doing that? And find the people in your life, because oftentimes I do this. It's like I think about my VP of sales that left and I go, hey, man, I can complain and be mad they went to my competition. But at the end of the day, I missed something. They felt like a number. And I just wasn't present enough to see that. And when I'm listening to Mark's story and his passion and him building Pivot and everything he's doing, I'm going, wow, the big action item is, am I treating anybody just like a number in my life right now and not seeing them as a person and taking them to that next level? Remember, the difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every business is top producers take action. Take action on that today.